So let me. YouTube. I forgot to turn the microphone on. My apologies there. So, man, that's gonna mess up that YouTube video. I edited possibly later. Here's the deal. So we are here to deconstruct from the Bible. That's why we do this on Tuesday. Today we are going through Leviticus. Um, we're in Leviticus 10 and 11. We're going to read every word for word because with the idea that you don't understand it because you don't read it. And what we're finding is that most people haven't read this book. Most of the people that you deal with, most of the people who talk to you, most of the people who try to come and so-called tell you what the Spirit is saying, haven't read this book for themselves. And since they haven't read it for themselves, they really don't know what it says. We've discovered so many things that are vile, so many things that are incorrect, so many things that are copied from other religions, previous religions. And in this one, we're going to, when we get into chapter 11, we're going to see that this could not have been written by this deity because they don't know science. It's clear that the level of biological knowledge that they had at that time frame was incorrect. And if this is supposed to be the inerrant word of this deity, then it should be 100% correct. It should match up to biology that we know today. But when we get to chapter 11, we're going to see that that's just not true, that it doesn't fit. And like I said, if you find me for the first time, um, we deconstruct. So make sure you read the titles. All right. We're not here to, I'm not here to, what's the word? Insult anybody. But, well, I shouldn't say but after that. That negates everything you just said. I'm not here to insult anyone. So this channel may not be for you, is my point that I'm getting at. This channel may not be for you as we go through Leviticus 10 and 11. If you have any questions, have any statements, please make them pertain to the subject matter to which we're talking about. Otherwise, wait till after we finish, which we're going to finish very quickly today as far as the reading portions of it, so that we can get into our general conversation. Like I said, chapter 10, chapter 11 are very short chapters, so it's not going to take much to get through them. But we do read it word for word. So if reading bores the hell out of you, sorry, but I don't want to be accused of skipping around and not reading everything in fullness of the chapter or anything like that. Plus, it helps us get through it. Hey, Debbie, how you doing? I see some of my regular folks starting to pop in on Facebook and YouTube. Appreciate you. I see a bunch of people on TikTok. I appreciate you guys for being here. So, as far as Leviticus, the previous chapters of Leviticus, we went through a whole bunch of laws and a whole bunch of, hey, you can't build the temple this way, build the temple that way, build the tents, build this, build the breastplate, put on some stones that are used for casting, for uh, what's it? They would call it witchcraft today, uh, but divining things. So we went through all that, and we went through how to build the tents and how to build this and build that. It was boring as hell. It was boring as hell, but we powered through it. We powered through it. So now we finally getting back into a little bit of story. A little bit of story is about to happen now, but it's going to be a messed up story. Um, it's going to be a messed up story because if this had happened to me, there's absolutely no way. Basically, I'm saying Moses would have got his ass whooped. I would have to. If Moses was my older brother, my older brother's name is David. In my entire life, I have never been able to beat him in a fight. I think I can beat him now, but when we was coming up, I never won. If what's about to happen with Moses and Aaron, if that was me and David, I whoop his tail. I guarantee I whoop his tail. Moses deserves a butt whooping for what's going to happen in the next part. In this next part. So, without further ado, we are going to go ahead and get started and read through these chapters. Uh, Yesterday, Debbie, you on both of them? You on Facebook and YouTube? Yesterday, a lot of YouTube comments didn't come through, so I didn't see them. My apologies for those. So Aaron's son Nahab and Abihu, and remember these two guys were introduced a long time ago, but then nothing else was said about them. And then now we're going to see the reason why they were introduced. So Aaron's son Nahab and Abihu took their censers, uh, put fire in them and added incense, and they offered unauthorized fire before the Lord, contrary to his command. So fire came out from the presence of the Lord and consumed them, and they died before the Lord. Moses said to Aaron, "This is what the Lord spoke." of when he said, "Among those who approach me, I will provide holy. I will be proved holy in the spirit of all the people. I will be honored." Aaron remained silent. So if now this ain't the first part that I'm going. This is when my anger is going to get riled up to get ready to whoop my brother's ass. If after my two sons just went up there and it's their first shot, their first time, they're going up there. This first time, as we know, they going up there to bring in this stuff to honor this deity, and he burns the hell out of them with holy fire. And Moses is like, I told you, I told you. This is what I was, I will be honored. This God is saying that I will be honored. This is bullshit. Okay. And Aaron just remained silent. I'm not remaining silent. You just, my sons went up there. They rookies. One shot. This is like that, and they get killed. I got a problem with that. But Aaron remained silent. Moses summoned Mishael and Eliphaz, sons of Aaron's uncle Uziel, and said to them, "Come here, carry your cousins outside the camp, away from the front of the sanctuary." So they came and carried them, still in their tunics, outside the camp, as Moses ordered. So now their cousins come up, and they got to carry the dead, charred bodies, but somehow these bodies were charred and without the clothes being burned. So you burnt the person, but the clothes. There was a military weapon that was supposedly developed that would allow you to drop this bomb on a city. It won't destroy the buildings and everything, but it'll kill all the plants and animals and people. But maybe they already had this technology back then. But so now, right after this happened, I can't mourn. I can't be in shock. I got to carry my dead cousin's body and dispose of it. But the tunics are still there. Then Moses said to Aaron and his sons Eleazar and Ithamar, "Do not let their hair become unkept, and do not tear your clothes, or you will die, and the Lord will be angry with the whole community. But your relatives, all the Israelites, may mourn for those the Lord has destroyed by fire. Do not leave the entrance of the tent of meetings, or you will die, because the Lord's anointing oil is on you." And so they did as Moses said. So my brothers have died, as far as being Eleazar and Ithamar. My sons have died, but I still got to maintain and stay here. And I can't mourn. That the tearing of the clothes and letting the hair becomes unkept is a method for them to show that they are in mourning. They can't mourn. They have to maintain their appearance, because this deity can't have you looking unkept. Now you can't look unkept. You got to make sure that you're still got your hair did. Don't tear your clothes, and stay at the entrance door, because you still have this anointing oil on. Moses is catching an ass whooping, and he's gonna keep catching. He's about to catch that ass whooping. As far as if it was me, I'm just saying, Aaron's a punk, but here's me. Then the Lord said to Aaron, "Oh boy." Then Moses said to Aaron, "You and your sons are not to drink wine or other fermented drinks whenever you go into the tent of meetings, or you will die. This is the lasting ordinance for the generations to come, so that you can distinguish between the holy and the common, between the unclean and the clean, and you can teach the Israelites all the decrees the Lord has given them through Moses." Now, I've heard some pastors teach that that these two sons, what's the son's name again? That these two sons, Nadab and Abihu, were drunk, and that is why they made the mistake. And they use this part here where you talk about you and your sons are not to drink wine or other fermented drinks whenever you go into the tent of meetings. They use that as, see, this is why that command was given after the fact, because they were drunk. There's actually nothing that indicates that they were drunk when they went in there. It just said that he did it wrong. But now it's like Moses saying, well, I want to make sure that you guys don't do it again. So don't drink anything, right? But the problem, my son just died, and you trying to give me some more rules. You already told me I can't mourn my sons. Now you're telling me some more rules about how we're supposed to honor this deity who just murdered my sons. Moses said to Aaron and his remaining sons, Eleazar and Ithamar, take a grain offering left over from the food offering, prepare it without yeast, and present it to the Lord and eat it inside the altar, for it is most holy. Eat it in the sanctuary area because it is your share of and your son's share of the food offering presented to the Lord. For so I have been commanded. Now he's saying he's getting this command from God, from this deity. Now, you still giving me some damn commands and how to honor this dude who just murdered my sons. I got to keep that in my mind the whole time. That light is bright right there. Uh, but you and your sons and your daughters may eat the breast that was waved and the thigh that was presented. Eat them in the ceremonial clean place. They have been given for you. They have been given to you and your children as your share of the Israelite fellowship offering. The thigh that was presented and the breast that was waved must be brought with the fat portions of the food offering to be weighed before the Lord as wave offerings. This will be a perpetual share for you and your children, as the Lord has commanded. Now, here again with the perpetual sharing. This perpetual is supposed to be for all time. We see that this is not an all-time thing, and that as people got into Christianity shifted and said that no, you don't have to do this all the time. You don't have to do any of these laws. You can ignore these laws. There are no more reason to have these. Anybody can be a priest or a priestess. These are some of the contradictory attitudes from the Old Testament and the New Testament. But here again, you're still being told to go and eat this stuff, this offering, right after your son just died. Your sons just died. When Moses inquired about the goat of the sin offering and found it had been burned up, he was angry with Eleazar and Ithamar, Aaron's remaining sons, and asked, why didn't you eat the sin offering in the sanctuary area? It was most holy. It was given to you to take away the guilt of the community by making atonement for them before the Lord. Because I'm guessing they have to make atonement because them two brothers had messed it up earlier. Since its blood was not taken into the holy place, you should have eaten the goat in the sanctuary area as I commanded. Like, why aren't you honoring the deity that just murdered your brothers? I mean, for real? Go and honor the deity that just committed this murder. Aaron replied to Moses, today they sacrifice their sin offerings and their burnt offerings before the Lord. But such things as this have happened to me. Would the Lord have been pleased if I had eaten the sin offering today? When Moses heard this, he was satisfied. Basically, Aaron finally stood up a little bit and said, look, we gave to your deity. My first two sons messed up. They died. You carried them off and threw them off to the side of the sanctuary, outside the place of. I couldn't mourn them. My sons couldn't mourn them. We had to still sit here and do our duty. Now we did all the sacrifices the way we're supposed to do sacrifice. We just don't feel like eating, man. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's common. Some people don't eat when they go through trauma. But so Aaron finally stood up. But I'm telling you, I'd have whooped Moses' ass because he showed no remorse for the fact that his nephews just got killed. And this deity is burning them up with a fire that doesn't burn their clothes. It's movie magic kind of thing that's going on here. But again, these things are supposed to be perpetually done. These offerings are supposed to be perpetually done through the Levites, through Aaron's generations. But not even the Jewish people do this. They don't do this either. Not to this day. These things are not followed. So it's not like there's a group that's following this, and certainly the Hebrew Israelites are not following this. Now we're going to get into in the clean foods and unclean foods in Leviticus 11. Any questions or statements about that part we just went through? What's up, Donald? How you doing? I know I'm going a little bit faster than I normally do because I started an hour late. And y'all know I want to get done by 12 with the reading so that we can have some conversation, even if the conversation is still about this. But we had a little bit of story. Now we're about to go back into some rules and regulations. But these rules and regulations are not as bad as all the building this, building that, building this, building that. And I want to hear your comments. Facebook, YouTube, TikTok? I want to hear your comments. Come on with it, Facebook. All right, so 11. Most people know and very familiar with chapter 11 of Leviticus. You will find that this is something that most have read, but I fear that most don't understand. And their way out is to deal with the fact that there's a script part of the Bible in the New Testament says that it's not that what goes in your mouth that defiles you, but what comes out. That is not something that was saying you can go and eat whatever you want to eat. Just because he had told Peter and them, hey, Peter had the dream and he was offered the food and on the vision, that does not negate following these laws of Leviticus. You know, when it talks about going, if someone offer you something and you go into it, this was in Gospel Thomas, you offer something, some food from some people, eat it as a good, sign of a good gesture. But that's not how you're supposed to live your day-to-day life. This is how you're supposed to follow Leviticus as far as your day-to-day life. Now, some of y'all are going to get mad at me. I know one particular person, when I get to a certain part, is going to get mad at me about this part. She'll be all right, though. But we're going to also see how this God could not have divinely inspired this book because biologically he's wrong. And if this deity was the one that created all animals, he should know how these animals function. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, say to the Israelites, of all the animals that live on the land, these are the ones you may eat. You may eat any animal that is divided hoof and that chews the cud. Now, I want y'all to keep something in mind here as we go through this. Most people think that chewing the cud is just eating grass, eating leaves, right? Is that what most of you guys think? I want to know. I'm not going to keep going until I get a couple answers. Do most of you guys think that chewing the cud is the eating, the consuming of grass? Come on. I'm waiting. Let me see what we got now. There's enough people on here on both of them. And don't be trying to go to Dr. Google. Don't try to go to Dr. Google real quick on me to look it up. I know I can feel it. I can feel that some of y'all are trying to run to Dr. Google real quick to see what is chewing the cud. What does it actually mean? Oh, now. So Debbie thinks that chewing the cud is just eating grass. Thank you, Debbie. See, Debbie brave enough. She gonna answer. The rest of y'all look acting scared. What is chewing the cud? Is it eating grass? Donald said he thought it was. All right, so chewing the cud. Chewing the cud is not only eating grass, but chewing the cud can only chewing the cud. The cud is, a cow has two stomachs. How many of you guys knew a cow has two stomachs, right? So a camel has two stomachs. So it eats, when you see the camel or the cow eating the grass, it eats the grass. It goes into its first stomach, it digests it, it comes back up, it chews it again, and then it goes into the second stomach and digests. That's chewing the cud. So in order for an animal to chew the cud, it has to eat it, put it into its stomach, come back up, chew it some more, and then go back into the stomach again. But a second stomach. So you got to have two stomachs for this to work. And they regurgitating and eating their food twice. So I want you to keep that in mind. There's a reason why I want you to keep that in mind. All right. So where are we at? 4. The animal that has divided hoof and chews the cud. There are some that only chew the cud and only have divided hoof, but must not eat. But you must not eat them. The camel, though it chews the cud, does not have a divided hoof. It is ceremoniously unclean. I know, Debbie, is nasty, right? That in itself should make the animal unclean. The fact that it chews this undigested, it chews its food twice. That should make that animal unclean. So it's ceremoniously unclean to you, the camel. The hyrax, which I'm just making up animals, not ain't making up animals. So though it chews the cud, does not have divided hoof, and it is unclean for you. The rabbit, though it chews the cud, does not have a divided hoof, it is unclean for you. Do y'all see a problem right here? The rabbit, though it chews the cud. I'm looking at everybody. I'm looking at YouTube, Facebook. No, that's YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok. Hear me when I say, and do not. And matter of fact, go back and check. Go back and check. Rabbits do not chew the cud. Rabbits do not have two stomachs. So, your Bible, this Bible, that's serious acid reflux. This book, which is supposed to be inspired by God, just demonstrated that this deity does not actually understand that the rabbit does not chew the cud. The rabbit doesn't have two stomachs. It does not. So how could a deity that built rabbits, made rabbits, created rabbits, designed rabbits, not know that the rabbit doesn't chew the cud? You see, their elementary level understanding of biology at the time frame, they thought they in their minds, chewing the cud was the fact that they ate grass. This is why you were taught this by your preachers and teachers and Sunday school teachers and all. This is why they taught you that chewing the cud was merely eating grass, because somebody at some point recognized that the rabbit doesn't chew the cud. If they were smart, when this was realized that rabbits don't chew the cud, they should have changed this in the Bible. They should have changed this. It's a minor change that they could make that people wouldn't even notice. How many people would know? Most people don't even read this, but most people wouldn't even notice this if they took this little part that says the rabbit, though it chews the cud. They took that sentence out. Take verse 6 out. If you did that today, 40 years from now, people will swear up and down that it never said anything about a rabbit. That's how easily you can make that change. Hell, within 20 years, you can make that. People will not remember that it says that and swear up and down it didn't. They can change this. But this demonstrates that this deity did not know its own creations. So therefore it can't be God then, right? I mean, is that just me? Am I the only one who thinks that? That if you don't even know your own creation, then how can you be the creator? You forget. That's one. There's nothing. The rabbit, though it chews the cud, does not have a divided hoof and is unclean, even though we know it doesn't chew the cud. The pig, though it has a divided hoof, does not chew the cud. It is unclean to you. You must not eat their meat or touch their carcasses. They are unclean to you. Of all the living creatures, of all the creatures living in the water of the seas and the streams, you may eat any. You may eat any of You may eat any that have fins and scales, just fins and scales. Fins and scales. But all the creatures in the seas or streams that do not have fins and scales, whether among all swarming things or among all other living creatures in the water, you are to regard as unclean. No shrimp, no lobster, no crab legs. For some of y'all, no catfish, because I don't think catfish has scales. Little slimy, nasty thing. No catfish. Yep, no crab, Wade. No crab. No crab. Lobster scallops, oysters. No sir. No. Like I said, for my southern people, you can't have none of that catfish. Can't have no fried catfish sandwich. Oh no, we already said no pig. He had already said no pig earlier. Yep, no pig. I know there's a particular person, she don't want to say something, but you can't have none. No scrimp. Grand Rising Derek. No scrimp, according to this. Oh, y'all got here late. Okay. No scrimps. So you got here late, Wade. So I'll say it one more time. This guy doesn't know his book because he said that the rabbit chews the cud and the rabbit doesn't chew the cud. Rabbit doesn't have two stomachs. It doesn't regurgitate its food and chew it again. So this guy doesn't know how his own animals work. But y'all can't have no scrimp if you believe in this book. Of course you seen, because they will say that you is not what goes in your mouth, but what comes out that it defiles you. And mind you, when you go to the fish fry at the church, it's catfish. Is if a fish got scales, you can eat it. If it got fins and scales, you can eat it, according to this their dietary habits here. And these are supposed to be maintained. Yep, no scrimp. Uh, so let's continue. Swarming things like that. And since you are to regard them as unclean, you must not eat their meat. You must regard their carcasses as unclean. So you can't find a dead fish on the shore and eat it, or you can pick it up or touch it. Anything living in the water that does not have fins and scales is to be regarded as unclean to you. So all the animals in the water, the only ones you can eat are the ones that have fins and scales. Nothing else. No shark fin soup. No shark fin soup for you. No swining and dining. No. Now we're going to get into another mistake that this deity doesn't realize how to make his own animals. That how they don't know. All right, and he's going to show you that this book was written by man. Uh, that man, the man alone, no inspired by God, because otherwise this deity would correct them and make sure and that they didn't do this, that they didn't put this in the wrong category to show that you that this deity doesn't know his animals. Now, again, this is another thing they can easily take out of this book without people noticing it if they really wanted to. If I was like head of the Catholic Church at some point, I'd be like, hey, psst, we need to take the rabbit part out, and then we need to take this other part out. Ain't nobody gonna know. These are the birds you are to regard as unclean and not eat because they are unclean. Uh, the eagle, the vulture, the black vulture, the red kite, any kind of black kite, any kind of raven, the horned owl, the screech owl, the gull, any kind of hawk, the little owl, the cormorant, the great owl, the white owl, the desert owl, the osprey, the stork, got to make sure you deliver the babies, and any kind of heron, and the hoopie, and the bat. Does anybody see a problem with that list? These are the birds that are regarded as unclean, and that's a whole list of birds. Does anybody see a problem with that list of birds? I will give you a minute to contemplate as I sip on this divine coffee that was made for a brother this morning. Oh, it's so good. Oh, oh, gracias, mi amor. Does anybody see a problem with that? Birds in general are unclean? Nope. That's not that's not the problem. These are birds that are supposed to be unclean. You got, you know, the eagle, the vulture, the black vulture, the red kite, any kind of black kite. I'm from a town that has large chicken processing plant and smell. Oh hell yeah! Thank you, my guy Paul. Paul came through. Bats are mammals. Bats are mammals. If you are the all creating deity, you're doing a list of birds. Why are you putting a bat? Why are you putting a bat in there? A bat's not a bird. Right. The bat should have thrown you off because the bat's not a bird. Now, if you are this deity, you should know that at some point these fools gonna figure out that a bat is not a bird. So let me put bats in a different category. Let me not put it with birds. But it's obvious that these people who was writing this was just looking at things that fly, and they said bat fly, so it must be a bird. They didn't have that. They didn't understand it. And I've heard pastors try to say, well, the distinction between uh, it really just means things like that fly, bigger things that fly. I said, but they knew the difference between birds and insects that fly. Insects fly, but they knew that that's not a bird, right? So the uh, Stephen said, what puts bats in the mammal chart? Because they don't lay eggs. Birds lay eggs. Bats have babies like mammals. The baby comes out. leave, date, pimp, chicken. Oh, but yeah, that's what separates them. That's what makes them mammals. But these people back then, they didn't look at it that way. So I've heard many pastors try to say that, oh, because they didn't have those distinctions, they didn't understand, that that would be a difference. But this God is supposed to be for all times. So for being for all times, he would not have put bats in the same category. They could have just left it out, or they could have put it in a separate thing. You know, they could have said, although not a normal bird, do not eat the bat. I understand what you're saying, Stephen. We came to that understanding, and that's what I'm saying. But this God should have known that at some point we will come to that understanding that bats are mammals, and therefore should not have put it in the same category as birds, because now it is under it's being criticized. It's being looked at as this deity didn't know that a bat wasn't a bird. Now, most people just leave this alone. But just in this one chapter, we've seen that this deity doesn't know its animals. All right. Just appreciate that, Maestro. We should know that this deity doesn't know his animal. We see that he said that a rabbit chews the cud, but a rabbit does not chew the cud. A rabbit doesn't have two stomachs. It doesn't eat its food, then regurgitate its food and chews it again, right? And a bat, it's not a bird. 2,000 years later, he should say they're mammals. No, he could have just listed it amongst things that you're not supposed to eat. He didn't have to list it with the birds. Could have listed it somewhere else. Could have listed it up there with some other creature, some other thing. But evidently, Richard, sounds like this is one of those things that puts science and religion on opposing sides. It will, because religious people will try to hold on to it and try to justify it. Well, we just now found that out. They didn't think about it back then. And granted, they didn't. But this God should have known. He should have known. If this deity is for all times, he should have known that we would come to this point and make the change. I understand what you're saying, Stephen, but you're evidently not hearing a word that I'm saying. The point is, this deity should have known we would come to this point and should have already had it planned out for that. And you keep saying the same thing over and over again. Okay, so Stephen, explain how this deity didn't know that the rabbit chewed the cud when it specifically says that the rabbit chews the cud. But rabbits don't chew the cud. In their mindset, come on, explain that. Hey, he's supposed to be for all time. This causes people to think that this book ain't right. Explain the cud, Stephen. Explain the cud. I'm gonna keep reading. I'm gonna keep reading. All flying insects that walk on all fours, because he can't explain the cud, are to be regarded as unclean by you. There are, however, some flying insects that walk on all fours that you may eat, those that have jointed legs for hopping on the ground, so grasshoppers, locusts. Of these, you may eat any kind of locust, uh, cake crickets, or grasshopper. But all other flying insects that have four legs, you are to regard as unclean. You will make yourselves unclean by these. By these, whoever touches their carcasses will be unclean even till evening. Whoever picks up one of their carcasses must wash their clothes, and they will be unclean till evening. I would be unclean in Georgia all the time, bro. You know that a bat is a bird. A bat is not a bird, dude. It's a marsupial. It's a mammal, and I think it's even no, it's not a. It might be even categorized as a marsupial, but it's not a bird. It doesn't have feathers. It's not a bird. For them, any mammal-looking thing that flies is a bird, but birds don't. But birds have feathers. But an ostrich doesn't fly. It's a bird. And they don't have feathers. They don't lay eggs. Exactly. They're built completely different from birds. But Stephen, it also said that the rabbit chews the cud, and rabbits don't chew the cud. Explain that, sir. And they knew what chewing the cud meant. Exactly. They feed their young with milk. They would try to make excuses for it. I'm getting thrown off. Where are we? So you can eat all these flying insects, but think about it. But you can't touch their carcass. If you touch their carcass, then you're unclean. You will make yourself unclean by these. Whoever touches their carcass will be unclean till evening. Whoever picks up one of their carcasses must wash their clothes, and they will be unclean till evening. So when you swat that mosquito, you will be unclean. You're saying, yes, sir, a rabbit will eat anything. No, what is chewing the cud? What do you think chewing the cud is, Stephen? I'll wait. I'll keep reading while you answer. Every animal that does not have a divided hoof or does not chew the cud is unclean for you. Whoever touches the carcass of any of them will be unclean. That means, like, if one of them were to die on the natural causes, you can't touch it. You'll be unclean. Now, if you slaughter the animal in a ritual sacrifice, a blood sacrifice, that's fine. You can touch that carcass because it was done for the slaughtering for sacrifice. But if it just, old Betsy just fall over dead, you can't touch old Betsy. Now you're unclean. Of all the animals that walk on all fours, those that walk on their paws are unclean to you. Whoever touches their carcass will be unclean till evening. Anyone who picks up the carcass must wash their clothes, and they will be unclean till evening. These animals are unclean to you. They get it. They're unclean. So you can't touch none of them. Of the animals that move along the ground, these are unclean for you. The weasel, the rat. This is where, okay, Stephen, this is where he could have put the bat, and then it wouldn't even be a problem. Wouldn't even been a problem. Could have put the bat right here. You know. Uh, of the animals that move along the ground, these are the unclean ones to you: the weasel, the rat, because bats have been seen to move on the ground too. They walk, they crawl, and then they fly. Any kind of great lizard, the gecko, the monitor lizard, the wall lizard, the skink, and the chameleon. Of all those that move along the ground, these are the unclean for you. Whoever touches them, touches them when they are dead will be unclean till evening. Brother, it's symbolism for sin. No, I asked you what's chewing the cud. What is chewing the cud? And no, this is not symbolism. This is literal. This is the thing that people don't understand when they read this book. There are some things that are symbolic. There are some things that are allegorical. And then there are things that are actually literal. This is a literal list of what you should and should not eat. This was literal. This is not symbolic. But you still haven't answered what is the cud, because I don't think you know what chewing the cud actually is. And I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just saying. You said rabbits eat anything. You own rabbits. They will eat anything. What do you mean? What is chewing the cud? The law was a shadow. Yes, it was. Well, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't understand. I don't know the reference to that one. Let's see here. This is the same deity that needs to test people when he's supposed to already know their future. Exactly. You know, he already supposed to know what's going to your answers. That's why the Calvinists came about, because Calvinism was basically saying predestination. That was the main reason that they split from other Christians. There's always something like something like that. Chewing the cud is slowly chewing partly digesting the food over and over before finally swallowing. Right. You chew it, chew it, chew it. It goes into it. You have to have two stomachs to do it. Right. Rabbits don't have two stomachs, and rabbits don't chew their food, send it to their stomach, regurgitate it back up, chew it again, and then digest it some more. So this deity didn't know that rabbits don't chew the cud, although it said rabbits, although they chew the cud, they don't have a cloven hoof. They could have just left that line out. Just said don't eat rabbits. He could have put the rabbit in here on the things that move along the ground. Right? Right, cows and sheep. And I don't know if goats do it. I know camels do. But he could have put the rabbit in here with the animals that move along the ground. Boom, done. Wouldn't even been a question. All right. When one of them dies and falls on something, that article, whatever its use, will be unclean, whether it is made of wood, cloth, hide, or sackcloth. Put it in water, and it will be unclean until till evening, and then it will be clean. If one of them falls into a clay pot, everything in it will be unclean, and you must break the pot. No, you're not breaking our pots, bro. You swat a fly, the fly falls into your pot, you got to now kill, you got to break your pot. Nah, no, you're not doing that. Any food you are allowed to eat that has come into contact with water from any such pot is unclean, and any liquid that is drunk from such a pot is unclean. Although that one, all anything that one of their carcasses falls on becomes unclean. An oven or cooking pot must be broken up. You got to break all your dishes, all your cooking pots. If you swat a fly and it lands on your pot, hold on, y'all going too fast over there with it. There's a significance to the evening time. Is there? Not really. It's just they really not to be too harsh. That's what I think. So that people can live their life without, oh, you're unclean for 7 days. You got to go outside the city and all that kind of stuff. Everything you're reading is showing you how dirty sin is. God has now cleaned all animals. His all simplism to show sin. So no, that is Christian dogma as far as God has cleaned all animals. And actually, you can tell. And at the end of this, I was going to talk about how you can tell that this book and Genesis was written at the same time. Because in Genesis, with the story of Noah, it talks about clean and unclean animals. Yet these laws weren't given until Moses. How could Noah have known what clean and unclean animals are if the laws of Leviticus are not given until Moses? Right? Now, if you were saying that everything was clean, I would give you that credit. I'll give you that credit because he told Moses, I mean, not Moses, he told Noah. See, it was a little contradicting. He tells Noah, bring in this many clean animals and this many unclean animals, indicating that Noah must have known what clean and unclean is. But then when they got off the boat, he tells Noah again, now I give you every animal, I give you all the animals of the field to eat. Because before that, Noah was just, they were eating vegetarian, they were vegetarians, right? Noah talked to God, how could he know how to build an ark? I don't know if you, I don't know what side of the fence you're on with that with that part. According to this story, Noah talked to God and built this ark. But all the animals, he knew what clean and unclean was, yet he didn't eat animals at first. But then after the thing over, he can eat animals, but he said that he can eat all the animals. Then we get into Leviticus and you got all these rules of clean and unclean. But how in the hell would Noah have known what the clean and unclean were when he was bringing them on the boat if the Leviticus wasn't written until later? This just demonstrates, as I've said, that all of the entire Talmud, the whole the first part of the Old Testament. So not the Talmud. What's the first part of the Old Testament called? I forgot. But that whole thing was written in and around 500 BCE, during and right after the Babylonian captivity. It was all written at the same time. But how can Noah know how to build an ark? So you're going to presuppose that he knew what clean was unclean was because he was talking to God. So God would have told him what clean and unclean was when he was bringing the animals on the boat. That's going to be your justification. And you can probably take about 2 steps with that justification. I can see how you can come to that type of conclusion. Uh, but you're adding and reading in between the line. You're adding to in that one. You're presupposing. You're negotiating the text in order to make your narrative fit. But whereas Occam's razor is that the simplest answer is usually the right answer. The fact that these books, Genesis and Leviticus and all these other books of Moses, were written at the same time is most likely what happened. So they were written at the same time. So these authors, these various scribes who was writing this, would have put these things in there because all of them were writing together. So they would have said, "Oh, he had to take a certain number of clean and a certain number of unclean," and because we got to be able to explain this. How can he know what plants to eat and what plants not to eat? The same way that most civilizations around the world figured it out. When you ate these red berries here in Georgia, and you had stomach pains, and people got sick and people died, you learned don't eat that. Or you watch and see what the other animals eat. It's kind of like, okay, so when you do survival training, when we did survival training in the military, one of the things that you learn is that if you go see some water and if animals won't drink from that water, don't drink from that water. You leave it alone. So you can watch animals, and it's through trial and error. No, this deity didn't give me my knowledge. I researched, I learned, I studied. That's how I got my knowledge. Right. How does clean and unclean a debate if the creator doesn't even know what to categorize his animals in? Right. So let's continue because I think we pushed that one as far as I'm going to push it for right now because I want to finish this chapter and before anybody walks in here. Where did I leave off? In the bowl. If any food you are allowed to eat that has come into contact with the water of any such pot is unclean. Any liquid that is drunk from such pot is unclean. Anything that, yeah, I already read this. Well, it's got to be broken up. They are unclean in regard to unclean. A spring, however, or a cistern for collecting water remains clean, but anyone who touches one of the carcass is unclean. So if a dead animal falls in a stream, the stream is still clean. If a carcass falls in on any seeds that are to be planted, they remain clean. But if water is put on the seed and the carcass falls on it, then it is unclean to you. If any animal that you are allowed to eat dies, anyone who touches his carcass will be unclean till evening. Anyone who eats some of his carcass must wash their clothes, and they will be unclean till evening. Anyone who picks up the carcass must wash their clothes, and they will be unclean till evening. It did say it just like that. I wasn't rereading. Every creature that moves along the ground has to be regarded as unclean. It is not to be eaten. If you are to eat any of the creatures that moves along the ground, whether it moves on its belly or walks on all fours, or many feet, it is unclean to you. This can be a little bit confusing because you just told us that crickets and grasshoppers are cool to eat with the bent legs, and now you're saying every. Every is a finite term, so you can't you make up your mind. Deity, is it all of them, or are there exceptions? But since you gave the exceptions, people are gonna say, well, the every don't mean everything except. Which I hate when people actually speak that way and say, well, I did everything I possibly could except. Then you didn't do everything. Do not defile yourself by any of these creatures. Do not make yourself unclean by means of them or be made unclean by them. I am the Lord your God. Consecrate yourselves and be holy because I am holy, even though you just killed two brothers for making a mistake. Do not make yourselves unclean by any creature that moves along the ground. I am the Lord who brought you out of Egypt to be your God. Therefore, be holy because I am holy. Even though you did not bring archaeologically, there were no Exodus. These are the regulations concerning animals, birds, every living creature that moves about in the waters, and every creature that moves along the ground. You must distinguish between them, unclean and clean, between living creatures that may be eaten and those that may not be eaten. Now we can get into just regular conversation, and we can talk more about this. I'm not going to go in circles with people because that is a waste of time. Because I'm not here to try to convince someone who already believes in this religion that they should make a change. That's not the purpose here. And I would talk about it just for a little bit of debate, but we're not going to continue a pointless, fruitless debate. It had to be it had to be just different parts of the world with different stories. Yes, you do have different parts of the world with different stories because they're going to be different animals that they will have to deal with. Um, for instance, I don't think so. If this story was in the Americas, I don't think that before Europeans came over here, there was any animal in North America that chewed the cud. I can't I can't say that right off the bat. I guess you gave yourself your brain. No, my parents gave me my brain. It's called biology, conception, and their parents 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 and so on and so forth, infinitum, because we don't know when the first one of my biology came. But yeah, I don't know if there were cows and any animal that chewed the cud in the Americas prior to Europeans coming over here. So if this story was told in the Americas, it'd be totally different because you wouldn't have that at all, and then they wouldn't be eating any meat. I don't know if there were goats or sheep. I don't know if wait a minute. They might have them mountain goats. If I was in the jungle and a bat flew across, I'm not denying. See, this is where you're mistaken, Stephen. I'm not denying that those people back then thought that bats were birds. I'm saying they thought bats were birds, so they wrote the bat in as a bird, which shows that this book was not inspired by your divinity. That's the point. Not that you're trying to draw the argument in one direction to which I'm not even stating that direction. I acknowledge that we came into more knowledge later on. They didn't have it, therefore this deity didn't have it, and that makes it not this makes it not the all. Um, Running water is clean and still water is undrinkable. For the most part, yes. For the most part, yes. But you can go to a pond. A pond does not have running water because it doesn't have any. That's the difference between a pond and a lake. Is a pond is only filled by rain, whereas a lake has some type of stream or river or whatever that comes into it. So a pond can be clean, but if the other animals ain't drinking from it, I ain't drinking from it. Everything in short statement, so you don't have to name 1,000 things. No, you don't have to name 1,000 things, and you probably shouldn't have named the ones the rabbit and the bat could have easily been left out, but he named them, so it makes him liable for it and for the understanding of it. There's a lot of running water. True, there are some places like um, where and that's what you learn in survival training. You go to if animals don't eat that or don't drink that, you don't eat it, don't drink it either. That's just basic survival training, no matter where you go. Do bisons chew the cud? I'm not sure. That's what I was asking. Come on, Dr. Google. Dr. Google, does bisons chew cud? Yeah, mountain freshwater, it doesn't for the good kill you. Even if you go to Ruby Ridge, Ruby Falls, and drink that water, it ain't gonna kill you, but it's gonna make you shit on yourself. What do you believe? What did you say? Where did that go? Do you believe we come from apes? No, that's ludicrous. Even if you even here's the thing that most of these Christian or religious people who go against evolution, and I'm not fully on the evolution bandwagon, but I do understand it more than you guys, you Christian people understand it. In evolution, men don't come from apes. It doesn't happen that way. There is believed for them in this system and a common ancestor that is not an ape, and then multiple branches of other animals of other hominid type animals come from apes. Dr. Google said that yes, bisons do chew the cud. It is not an ape that is the common ancestors. Ape is a divergent from the common ancestor. Gorilla, even the chimpanzee is a divergent from the common ancestor. The monkey is a divergent from the common ancestor, but the ape is not. And even where the hominid diverged from this common ancestor, it separated into other different types of hominids according to their theory. So people saying we come from apes was a way for one, racist as Europeans to say that black people come from monkeys. Two, so that the Christian right can, and I don't mean Christian like right wing, but the Christian people, Christian mindset can distract from science back in the day. But it is not that evolutionary theory doesn't say that we come from monkeys. It just says we have a 98% common biology to certain monkeys, or to apes. Let's see. But I hate when people say that. Do we come from apes? Hell no. That's not even the way their theory works. Yeah, we're right. Because they are different. It's a different species. They thought the earth was flat. I guess you think the earth flat too. Probably did. Right, we can boil water, the other animals can't. That is true. I'm talking about what you are saying is that due to the creator knowing the eventuality that eventually it would be categorized, it should have been categorized right, since he should have known it would come to this. Being seen as omnipotent doesn't leave room for mistakes, like bats being birds section that makes humans a mistake. Exactly. And like rabbits chewing the cud, and rabbits don't chew the cud. Now they don't want to talk about that part. They don't want to talk about the fact that rabbits don't chew the cud, but this guy said that rabbits chew the cud. So you want to stay stuck with the bats. Let's talk about them rabbits. Let's talk about them rabbits. They ate what they could find. They ate what was edible to survive. That's why I don't listen to the rules on what to eat and what not to eat. Yeah. Then these people are supposed to be living in the desert, so they ain't got There ain't a lot of choices. There ain't a lot of choices going around. They got to eat what they can scrap together. What matters is love and peace to all of the gods. Okay. And for me, there's some more that matters. And you can group a lot of things into love. So probably love is an overarching idea. But it took millions of years of evolutionary process to happen. Religious people try to argue, why isn't it happening now? And that's the thing that they don't understand about evolution, Maestro, is that evolution is still happening now. We would just call it adaptation, but evolution is still happening. They're like, well, why aren't there some, half monkey, half man running around? No, the current modern chimpanzee is the evolutionary animal descendant from the branch from the common ancestor that evolved into the modern chimpanzee. And a million years from now, that chimpanzee may be different. Will it be human like us? No, it won't. It doesn't have. It probably won't. I ain't gonna say it won't, but it probably won't. Uh, but evolution still happens, but it happens at such a slow process. You're not gonna see it in your lifetime, right? But these people expect to see it in their lifetime. If you say they eat the cud is not still a law, don't eat them. Millions of years of a lie never happened. Boy, you believe this earth is 6,000 years old, you better go somewhere. You better get out of here. You think the earth is what, couple thousand years old? Yeah. You say they eat the cud or not, it's still law. Don't eat them. Oh, so your God is wrong completely wrong about rabbits, but you just going, it don't matter. He said don't eat them, so I ain't eating them. Oh man. Okay. Oh, dude, you serious about that, aren't you? And then he talk about the years. You just hey, all he need is faith. I don't need no facts. Ah, uh, it means your cousin's in a zoo. No, fool. Biologically, they consider chimpanzees to be a cousin to Homo sapiens, but they ain't my literal cousin. There's no bloodline there. Kind of see that's one of them arguments that they try to make when they really don't have an argument. Let me say something. Seems religious people think the world map has always looked the same way as it does today, meaning South America fits into Africa. Yeah, Pangea. I don't, most right. Well, Ricky, they always think that we have to believe what they believe. They don't feel comfortable in their own skin. You know, if you believe, like, I don't need anybody to believe what I believe. I don't need anybody to know what I know because I don't have a lot of beliefs. There's very few things I believe. If I don't know it, then it's speculative. It's like I don't know. I'll tell you, I don't know. I don't know. Could be not. But most things I know. Now, if you choose not to know it, that's on you. I don't care. We don't have to agree. But these people get their panties in a bunch. See, and you say I believe in evolution. I never said I believe in evolution. But there's more evidence of evolution than there is evidence of your Bible being true. There is more I, uh, there's more evidence of that theory than your theory. What Donna said. To explain more, in the far future, we humans evolve again. We might be hairless without external ears, and I'm sure our teeth will change as well, accommodating to eating structures of the same time. Right, like if you find some old human skulls, you'll find that they don't have a lot of them didn't have canine teeth in certain areas because you weren't tearing meat, but they adapted over time to tear meat. So you can call it. So I do think that we adapt and there are scientists now who are discovering that there seems to be DNA that's been fused into our DNA, like artificially fused into our DNA. So that's kind of like what the Sumerian story was talking about. But environmental conditions can change a whole lot of stuff as we go through time. I'm gonna give you an example of that in just a minute. I want to make sure I don't miss anything that people saying because y'all typing a lot and they keep on jumping on me. Our DNA is being reset right now. It seems as a matter of time it's getting hotter and hotter as we feel it. Yes, our DNA is being reset and it's naturally reset. It's almost like Dunning Kruger to be so sure about something that there really is no way to say it is definitive. I'm not sure I understand what you're saying. It's almost like Dunning to be so sure about something that there's really no other way to define. Okay, I must not be getting that. I'm backing up. Weird, but now see that's something different with you with the fossils, dude. Fossils are real. There is a worldwide. There has been a time frame where the seafloor is raised 400 feet, but it didn't happen like the Noah story. The Noah story was created because of this story had already been told. Yeah, but many of them don't do research outside the Bible. Now, let me give you an example of how things change. I don't know how old some of you guys are, but are you old enough to remember Chernobyl? How many of y'all are old enough to remember Chernobyl? Right. Oh, it's all love always, Stephen. I never have malice for anybody who disagree with me. And there are some things that we probably agree on. Like I hope we agree on the riverboat thing, but we're not going to talk about that today. We talked about that yesterday. Uh, how many? How many of y'all remember Chernobyl? 20 days after you were born. You little youngin. All right. So before the Chernobyl accident happened, and I know y'all is all my melanated people gonna love this story. All right. Man, quit. Wait. Slow down. I'm trying to say something before I get there. Christopher, stop it. I'm trying to tell the story. And y'all messing it up. You're giving the punchline first. God, oh, why I can't do nothing with y'all? Maestro say I know of. All right. Since they don't ruin the story, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you. So here's the thing. And it primarily focuses on some tree frogs in Chernobyl. Before the Chernobyl accident happened, I just asked, did you know, do you remember it? I ain't asked you about stuff about it. But before the Chernobyl, the tree frogs were primarily bright green or even yellow, right? But then after the Chernobyl incident, of course, the darker frogs had more melanin in them. That melanin allowed them to survive and to live and to be able to survive and to thrive, whereas the lighter skinned frogs weren't. So then the mating of the frogs shifted to where the female frogs wanted to mate with the darker skinned frogs. I think it's like over a 20-year period, those tree frogs went from being green, light green, to black. Now those tree frogs are like black. Most of them are just black. So we can see in Chernobyl how environmental conditions can change, and then over just a generation, you can adapt. The species, certain species will be able to adapt to those changes, right? Similar to the fact that, let's say somebody said something about some solar flares earlier. You ain't got to say it again, but if we started having more um, solar radiation, solar sunspots, things of that nature. When we have high solar flares and sunspots, it weakens our magnetic field. When our magnetic field is weakened, more radiation comes into on the planet, right? The darker skinned people will be able to survive it more so than the less melanated. So from your Caucasians all the way through your Asiatic people, and even though Indian people from India is considered Asian, they're darker than some people from in other categories. But as you go to the from lightest to dark, the darker people will be able to survive it more, right? Over time, if that can persist it over a certain amount of time, because of the number of people on this planet, everybody's going to be darker because it's going to be a thing about survival. Even people who have, if you've got the whatever the heaviest melanated trait in the gestational period is going to be the one that start winning out, simply because nature is going to fight for survival. Since you don't believe the Bible, do you believe that Satanists that worship Satans are just making up things and just saying it and do it for no reason? I think that Satanists, for the most part, are people who believe in the Bible, but they believe that Satan was the good guy in the story, you know, because there are different variations of Satanists, just like there are different variations of Christians. You have your Satanists that most people commonly like to think about, which is the one that does the baby sacrifice, all the bloodletting, and all this sort of thing. And then you have the Satanists that just say, live and let live. Uh, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. But their God is, they believe, they're kind of like the Gnostics who said that the God who created this planet was the evil God, but Lucifer was the light bringer, and he was fighting against that demiurge God. Um, so, and then that demiurge God tricked everybody. So they don't, they're not. I've known some Satanists who were very good people who had better morals than a lot of Christians that I knew. But they are still people who believe in this Bible and believe that the story of this Bible is somewhat correct. If you take the Bible out, they wouldn't believe in Satan. It might be Baal or Mithra or somebody else, but they wouldn't be Satanists if it wasn't for the Bible. Not if they go underground. True. Now, if you go underground, then you're going to lose pigmentation. Um, that is one reason why even though the story is there's that the center of the earth story, they say that when the Nazis went to Antarctica, that the people that they found down there were blonde haired, blue eyed, Caucasian, white looking skin, right? And it wouldn't be out of some rationality because they're on the ground. Albino is and white are wildly in the wild, and usually shit. This thing be moving. Usually means death. Even loneliness are attracted, and lionesses are attracted to darker manes. This is true, and it does usually mean that you are inky. Oh, you're saying inky is the day. Agartha, yeah. We talked about Agartha. I think we did that Friday. We did a whole Hollow Earth versus aliens. I think that was Friday. So if you go look on YouTube, the video we did, the live we did Friday, we talked about that. Agartha. And yes, Inky is the one that got translated from the Sumerians, Akkadians, Babylonians to be the devil. Enlil became Jehovah, Yahweh. No, people didn't worship Satan before they worship Yahweh. They just worship different deities. And a lot of those deities have been conflated into being a certain being in the Bible, right? Like when you go, I did a video a while back where I talked about how Enlil and Enki became Jehovah and Yahweh, right? Because when the Hebrew people never even were mentioned until around 1400 BCE. Prior to that, there's no mention of them. But prior to that, you had the Sumerian stories. You had Enlil, Enki. You got Ninharsag, Ilnana, Ishtar, who are and that's a good example. Ilnana and Ishtar is actually the same person, just different groups of people believed in that person. Now, later on, they get moved into other religions, right? It's just like Lilith from metaphysical Judaism or Hebrew. Lilith is the Lelutu out of the Sumerian, which is this night deity and a tree, but a night deity that kills people in the middle of the desert and kills babies in childbirth and that sort of thing. But the Lelutu became Lilith. Lilith became Genesis chapter 126, but then they got rid of Lilith in order to put Eve as the primary person and just saying it was a retelling of the story. It changes as different over centuries. These stories keep changing based on who's in charge and who's telling the story. So you have Satan-like creatures. So Zoroastrianism came up before Hebrew people came out. And in theirs, you got Agremenia. Agremenia is your Satan character. The Satan character has a lot of traits that Agremenia has because they knew about the Zoroastrian story. And what? Azur Mazda. And Azur Mazda has a lot of similarities to your Yahweh. Now, Yahweh was a Canaanite god, and then it was adopted into the Hebrew people, which I personally, I think the Hebrew people were worshipers of the Akhten who left Egypt around 14 in the early, prior to the 1400s BCE, at the end of Akhenaten's reign, and went into the Levant. And then later, during the Bronze Age collapse, when the Canaanites merged in with them, the Akhten became the Yahweh god the Canaanite Yahweh, the Canaanite god Yahweh, who then had a wife named Asherah, and Asherah was cool. They did that for almost 1,000 years until after the Babylonian captivity. And then that is when they got rid of Asherah, his wife, and Asherah turned into just a pole. So there's no Satan worship prior to it. It's just different deities that other people worship. And now people have, you know, romanced them together. And you got to romance them together to make it work for you. You have to. You got to go through that negotiation in order for them to work in your mindset. Otherwise, because for some reason, well, I kind of understand why. If you just said that, well, that's what those people believe at that time frame, but this is what we believe. But then people can look at you and say, well, that's just what you believe at this time frame. Just like in all religions, what you believe today in Christianity is different from what they believed 500 years ago in Christianity. Yeah. I don't know if you, like a person says, I got the Holy Spirit. Today you fine with that. 500 years ago, they would say you were possessed by a demon. Because only the priest can be imbued with the Spirit of Christ and the Spirit of the Holy Spirit of God. So it changes. Christianity is very false to me. Very false. That's why we're doing it. That's why this is a deconstruction page. And do I believe in spirits? Not so much spirit as much as I believe in energy. I just switch them over. Like you have energy. Everything is energy. Now there is consciousness. There is consciousness. You can call a consciousness a spirit because the consciousness never dies. What exactly happens to the consciousness after you leave here? Nobody knows. We have our best estimation, but nobody really knows. And that's the difference between me and most of these religious people is that I'm willing to admit, I have my theories based on as much evidence as I can gather, but nobody really finitely knows. You just got some hope. All right. But as far as like, do I think that they are ancestors, that the ancestral spirits, where you carry the genealogy of your ancestors, DNA in your ancestors? Do I think their consciousness has gone somewhere? Just like in the Bible, how it has Jacob's ladder and there are different rungs on the ladder, different dimensional planes, and we covered that when we was going through the Kabbalion and talking about the law of correspondence. Sure, there could be different. There most likely is different levels of consciousness, and there are points of interaction or abilities to interact at different levels. So I do think that there's something to being able to be in contact with or deal with spirits, but I don't think any one religion got their handle on it. The spirit of Christ has come. No, I don't think so. Because my ancestors never heard about your Jesus until they took Mali, until they came and took them from Nigeria. My family never heard of your Jesus. Well, I wouldn't say they couldn't read 5,000 years ago. Some people could read. The majority of people couldn't read. It's still all of it comes from man. Everything comes from man. There's not one thing you can prove that has been inspired by some deity. Now, at least the Sumerians had enough sense to say, hey, we didn't know how to do this farming, but the gods told us. We didn't know how to build these buildings, but the gods came and showed us. At least they said they came and showed them, and they treated it as they came in the flesh and showed them, which is why you have a lot of those alien theories out there. I think it's pretty young to try civilizations, but hey. Now, I do think that there has to be an intelligent design, an intelligent mind at work. I just don't think it's any of the ones that y'all put in any of the isms and religions. I don't think it's all benevolent and it's up here killing a day a Abihu and Adab and just burn them up in some fire. I don't none of that bullshit. The Bible was not written by Africans in Africa. It was not. Stop it. It was not. Now, Ethiopia had the first Bible 500 years after the so-called Jesus. 500 years. They did not, Africans did not write this book. This book was written by people in the Levant. That's who wrote it. And then and that's the first part. The Old Testament was written by them. The New Testament was written by Greeks and Romans. Don't throw that Ethiopian thing out of there. You kind of throw yourself. It's a thing that people like to throw out there, but it's wrong as hell. You don't get the Abyssinian, not Abyssinian. What is the damn kingdom called? Whatever the kingdom was before it became Ethiopia. I think. Why do I want to say Abyssinian? But I know it's not Abyssinian. But they were. It wasn't until around 500. No, not 500. Shit. It was in around the 380, 390 BC CE that they actually became Christian. The book was there a little bit before then, but it was brought to them by a damn monk, a missionary. So no, they didn't have it. That's a false teaching. Have you ever heard of Osprey? Speak on how many demis took turns on so-called gods. We have a lot of, if I understand you to mean like a bunch of demigods. I'm not sure if somebody's about to come to my cigar lounge. But there's been a bunch of little demigods that keep taking turns as to who's God, who's not God, who's the top, who's the bottom. Anubis was at the top until Osiris comes in. The Bible wasn't written in Egypt. Israel is not Africa. People like to claim that, but it's not Africa. It's the Levant. See, that's like how that goes against your earlier argument about saying that the Levant is Africa. I remember when we started saying that and doing that. Hold on. What up, bro? What's up, man? Cool. You good? Always, sir. Yes, sir. It's a good problem to have. I don't have no problems. You have problems. I have good problems. It's always good to have good problems. We'll be able to continue. You can't do nothing. See, you can't do nothing without breath because you give that breath over to your God. I give that breath to the fact that my parents had me. You see, calling an area something can constantly change. It doesn't always have to be what it is. Where does Europe begin and where does Asia end? This is something that we make up. All these things are things that man decides. You know. But your book is not created in Africa. It wasn't written by Africans. It might be written by people of color, I'll give you that. But what are you considering Africans? Just anybody on the continent? Because then you have to say the Arabs. Okay, y'all hold on. That's it. That's it. You stopped my podcast for your 1 second. Yo, you need me to sub in for you? I got you. Yeah, I don't know that. Sub in. You don't even know what they're talking about. Tell me what they're talking about. I'll make it happen. Religious deconstruction of Christian arguing. Oh yeah, we don't do arguments. Well, not arguing. You know, we do intense conversation. Yeah, you know what I mean. Of course I do. Mm-hmm. You don't know when I say something. Something. Yeah. Oh man. What's your point that you're arguing? Oh well. So on Tuesday we do what's wrong with the Bible. Okay. And we did Leviticus 10 and 11 today. But now it's after 12, so we just in conversation. So we talk about at that very moment, like there's multiple conversations with the Bible written. I was written after that wasn't until after the 380. Mm-hmm. Around 380, 400 that you get Ethiopian having the Bible and becoming Christian. So That's just something that people like to jump on there to say that it came out of Africa. Who's that? Okay. Earlier we were talking about how you came from you came from an 8. You did.
I was about to say who, but you know, okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
It goes, it flows.
So what does the Bible say about polyamory?
Polyamory?
Yeah.
Well, actually, polyamory in the Bible would be okay.
Exactly.
I was going to say polygamy, but both would be.
Both
because
would
there
be.
is a difference between polyamory and polygamy.
Mm-hmm.
But both would be.
Polygamy, they'll say it's okay.
Yeah.
Polyamory, they'll say it's not.
But you had concubines.
My point
and
exactly.
slave wives.
My point exactly. And many wives.
And many. Now, the only exception, though, is I think in the New Testament somewhere it says that pastors and deacons should only be a man of one wife.
Pastors and deacons.
Deacons.
Most people for polyamory aren't pastors and deacons, but that was just something that came across. Like I was meditating last night, and that came across for me, and I was like, "Huh." Yeah. And you know what I mean? Only because you got to think. So Abraham, you know.
Yeah, he had his slave wife, and he had his regular wife.
Yep.
And then he pimped this. He pimped Sarah. Tell them you my sister.
You know what I mean?
Give him some gold. Oh, damn, that shit worked. Let's go talk to this other dude.
Yeah. Yo.
Tell them you my sister.
I try to tell them that the Bible was the first comic book. Nobody want to believe me when I say it.
Of course not.
So, you know. But that'd be a good topic. I would love to hear what people have to say about it. Let me know if you ever talk about that.
We have.
Okay, good.
Now, how about this?
Okay.
We schedule a day that you're gonna come here at 10 o'clock.
Okay.
And we're gonna talk about it. You're gonna be on here too.
I got you. I'm with it. Yeah. I'm absolutely with it. That'd be real fun.
All right, let me know.
Yeah.
It's on you. It's on you to decide. I ain't gonna chase you.
You do every day, right?
Monday through Friday.
Monday through Friday. Okay, so I just got back in town, so let my schedule clear up. But I think like next Tuesday or something like that.
Sorry. Tuesdays and Thursdays, no.
Tuesday. Okay, so probably
because I have a set thing that I do on Tuesday.
Okay, so it could be next Friday then.
Okay.
But let's make that tentative, and then next Friday we'll talk. We'll play around a little bit.
All right.
Fun.
All right.
All right, brothers. All right, podcast people.
All right. Later, man. So Abraham was pimping. I know y'all been having conversations, but yeah. But yeah, y'all didn't. So when we was doing Genesis, when we was in Genesis and we was talking about Abraham, you got the first time I'm gonna say he wasn't trying to pimp Sarah out. So when he goes over to Egypt, he tells Sarai, she was Sarai at the time. He tells her, "Say, look, tell them that you my brother. I mean, tell them I'm your brother. You my sister, because you're so pretty that they may kill me to try to take you." So Sarah does so. That's my brother. The Pharaoh sees her, and it doesn't name the Pharaoh, but of course it doesn't name the Pharaoh because then you can pin down the time frame. The Pharaoh sees her, said, "Damn, she's cute," and orders her to be brought to him. Well, during that time frame, the pharaohs, I think, let's see, is it this time that they couldn't conceive? You know, they start having some plagues and stuff in Egypt and problems and all that, and the pharaoh seers realize that it is this woman. So the sorcerers of the pharaoh said, the problem is with this woman right here. And then he goes back and he says, "Hey," and the pharaoh has slept with her too. Pharaoh has slept with her. So in order to, and then this Yahweh comes and he says that you slept with a married woman and I'm going to punish your kingdom until you make restitution. So he gives her back to Abraham, but he gives her slaves and silver and goats and more slaves, and Abraham made out like a fat rat. So Abraham didn't earn his wealth, right? So then it's a little bit later on, and I think it's Amalek. He goes into Amalek's kingdom. He tells Sarah the same thing. "Hey, tell him you my sister because you so pretty." Amalek, though, he don't sleep with her, but he kind of realized nobody can have a baby in his household and all this kind of stuff. So he realized it's a problem. And then he said, "That's your wife, man. Why you lie to me?" And then, Abraham like, "I thought you might kill me." And the Amalek said, "For Sarah, I'm going to give you all this silver and all this gold and all these slaves and all this stuff." And they roll out. So that's how Abraham got rich, pimping his wife. Anything goes when it comes to hoes because pimping ain't easy. Look up the trade. I mean, I probably need my glasses on. Look up the tribe of Dan. Returned to Israel this year. They're all African. Shit, I can claim I'm from the tribe of Dan if I want to. Like, none of that means anything to me, to be honest, Stephen. I mean, I'm just being honest. None of that really means anything. Uh, I, everybody in this planet started out heavily melanated, and then through adaptations and migrations, we change. But we all come from the same. There's no such thing as tribes. This is made up shit this is things we make up. Like, although my last name is Reed, I can say I'm from the tribe of Ross. Because from my grandparents, Eddie Ross and Isabel Ross, there was about 90 of us in Cobb County alone. So I can say I'm from the tribe of Ross. You know? Yes, and I can use DNA to identify which specific group that I came from. But my point is, you can make up a name for each group. Why is it that you can go fuck the tribe of Dan? It could be the tribe of Jacob, since that's all of them can become. All of them can consider themselves the tribe of Jacob, or they can consider themselves the tribe of Isaac, or the tribe of Abraham, or the tribe of whoever Abraham's daddy name, which I can't remember right now. You can go back as far as you like and claim whatever tribe you want. You pick starting points because that's when you want to pick a starting point, or in this case, this is when your book picked a starting point. But it's just like the video I did about the people who claim to be Moors. You're claiming to be Moor because you're picking a starting point that you like, not a starting point from the as early as you can find. Wait, he said, I'm from the Welsh tribe. Tell me in Africans, there's no such thing as. No, no, no. So you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. I'm not saying that you can't. I'm saying people can pick their tribes. My father's family originated in Mali. I can claim Mali, but then a subset of that, their ethnic group was Dogon. So I can claim the ethnic group of Dogon, right? As far as anything beyond that in the Dogons, I don't know. But I can claim, I can sit here right now and say I'm from the Dogon tribe. I got DNA to prove that I'm from the Dogon tribe. Plus, I also got a whole bunch of paper records and all that kind of stuff from the Dogon tribe. From my mom, I can go with the Yoruba. Hell, I can go with actually Yoruba and Igbo from my mom's side of the family. But I can also claim to be Scottish because my father's family did go through Scotland. You know, they went to school in Scotland, and before they came to the Americas, my father's family was in Scotland, which is where we picked up the Reed name. It was in Scotland. But before Scotland, they was in England. And before England, they was in Gaeta, Italy, you know. This was my family. I can also claim Italian because they was in Gaeta. You see what I'm saying? My father's family traveled through the European pathway before they came to the Ohio River Valley and then before they came down to the Americas. I mean, came down to the South. My mother's family, straight from Nigeria to America, straight to Georgia. Didn't pass go, didn't collect $200. So, you know, I can say my family, yeah, they come from the Yoruba tribe, yeah, and some Igbo. So but what is an Igbo? What is a Yoruba? These are people who gathered together and then they decided to have a common culture, common rules, laws, and they formed that tribe. You can do that today. You can form a brand new tribe today. Y'all can go to one of them islands, say one of them islands in the Bahamas that don't have nobody. Get about 50 y'all go there. And y'all can claim a whole new name. And 1,000 years from now, you'll have descendants from, I'm from the enemy tribe. And that's the difference. I don't need those things to verify who I am. I don't need those things to have confidence and pride and honor in who I am. I don't need those. And But if you need them, more power to you. Go for what you know. And I don't need validation. Oh, look at all these people claiming they from the tribe of Dan and they all African. Hell, I can claim it. Prove it though. Here's the thing, prove it. Show me the DNA of the tribe of Dan. What's the DNA of the tribe of Dan? Show it. What's the DNA? We got some of that? You ain't gonna be able to prove it. You're not. Because unless you have some DNA from the people who lived at that time frame in that area and you can identify them as the tribe of Dan, you cannot prove through DNA that you're from the tribe of Dan. Here's the thing. I will give that Israelites and Hebrews, people who call themselves that, existed. What I will not say is that Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and all them sons, that they personally existed. Because there's no proof of that. You don't have proof, you have zero proof that King David existed. And here's the problem with King David. There's not one point in history that we can see where there was this united Israelite kingdom. None. There's no kingdom with Saul. There's no kingdom with David. There's no coins. There's no pottery. There's nothing. All there is writings. It's writings. It's literature. Literature is not enough proof. In order for you to validate literature, you have to have other proof. You have to have pottery, coins, all kinds of things of that nature. And then you have to have it from outside people as well who were existing at that time frame, not outside people who wrote about it later. You got to have people. But when you look at the history of the Levant, there was never a time that the Israelites or Hebrews controlled any great area. They were always vast. Now, when you do have them, they're vassals. They're vassals of Egypt. Like when the so-called Moses story was happening, the Levant was controlled by Egypt. So he left Egypt for more Egypt. See what I'm saying? Because all of that was still controlled by Egypt. During the whole northern kingdom of Israel, southern kingdom of Judah, that was controlled by the Arcadians and then the Babylonians and then the Persians. And they were still under Persian rule after 500. And then came the Greeks and conquered the Persians. Now they're under Greek rule. And then came the Romans, and now they're under Roman rule. So they've never actually had their own until 47? And then that was European. That's still under European rule. So, yeah. Yes, they do. Do you know how many graves they have to pull DNA from? I don't know how many they have to pull from, but I ain't seen no. I have yet to see any research that shows that we we found Abraham, and we tested his DNA. We found Isaac. We tested his DNA. And you got to understand what time frame. See, the Levant people weren't into mummification, so you're not going to find DNA of people in the Levant. The reason why you can DNA test and see what Tutankhamun's DNA is because you got material. You got carbon material. You got carbon. Yeah, well, it is made carbon. You got flesh. You got flesh. Okay, so you can DNA test Tutankhamun. You can DNA test all the mummification that was going on in Egypt, in Sudan, in that from the Aztecs and the Mayans and from the Incas. They use mummification, so you can DNA test those. You can't DNA test anybody from the Levant because they didn't use mummification. So there ain't no meat to test. They even tell you where the Bible tells you where Abraham, Sarah, this is Abraham, Sarah, Isaac, Jacob, Bethany, Joseph, they're all supposed to be I think all of them are supposed to be buried in the same place. at this land that he bought from an Edomite or a Hittite. He bought it from an Edomite or Hittite. He bought it from one of them tights, one of them ites. They tell you where it's at, but ain't nobody been able to find it. You know why they ain't gonna find it? It didn't happen. It didn't happen. I'm sorry. Why is there such an assumption with being the chosen people? That's why I had to leave Christianity. I hate that they think they are right in this modern day psychosis because they needed something special. They needed something to make themselves special and to separate themselves from everybody else. Like I did a video back in a little while back about where the pig taboos came from. The pig taboo was a method of separating themselves from the Phoenicians and the Philistines and all those people, and also the southern kingdom of Judah to fuss at the northern kingdom of Israel and justify why the northern kingdom went into captivity and they didn't go into captivity because they were eating that pig. Calling themselves the chosen people is like a trumpet's sound for them. It gives them pride. It makes them feel better about who they are, right? They're not the only ones who have been claiming chosen people prior to this Bible. You know, the Brits, the Scots, the Zulu, the Ashanti, all these people claim to be the chosen people of their deity in order to emphasize that their deity is on their side. So these people that's all it is, propaganda. It's propaganda to make themselves feel special and above everybody else, and especially their enemies. Where is Noah's Ark? In the book. That's the only place that Noah's Ark exists, is in the Bible. Noah's Ark does not exist. Um, Noah's Ark is a retelling of the Epic of Gilgamesh. No, well, actually, it might be in both the Atrahasis and the Epic of Gilgamesh. That's the story of Utnapishtim. I like Utnapishtim because Utnapishtim, who is your Noah, was the son of Enki, and he was told to build a boat and carry the seed of every animal on that boat because then there was going to be this flood, and for 6 days it was going to be monsoons and tidal waves and all that, and he survived. And he let two birds fly out, and then the third bird didn't come back or something like that, and same story, right? Bruh, that has proven to be that was debunked years ago about them finding Noah's Ark on a mountain. That has been debunked years ago. And here's the sad part about it. What they were claiming is where the boat wasn't even Mount Ararat. It wasn't even the right mountain. So no, they weren't. And I want you to think about something. If there was a worldwide flood, for over a year, Noah's on this boat before the water receded enough. There's no way he could have anchored himself to stay in one spot so that he still remained in the Levant. Noah would have ended up way somewhere else on the planet. It is highly unlikely for him to end up in the same area that the story is being told that it began in, because he was not anchored. And I want you to think about this, Stephen. I want you to think about this. And I'm going to get to that other part that you just said. The flood supposedly covered the highest mountain peak. Even at that time frame, the highest mountain peak was Mount Everest. There is no air in the top of Mount Everest. You can't breathe and everything would freeze. He was not higher than Mount Everest, my dog. There's the impossibility for them to survive that. All those animals would have frozen and died. How do they have thousands of fish fossils and claim fossils on? I thought you said fossils don't exist earlier. Make up your mind now. But there was a flood, the Younger Dryas. Yes, the Younger Dryas flooded. It flooded and 400 feet increase in sea levels in 6 days, which created tidal waves and monsoons and all that sort of thing. And that's why everybody has this flood story. But that was like 12,000 years ago. Fish fossils, okay. The air was much, dude, don't do that. The air was much different at that time. Don't do that. Don't say that. what the atmosphere was much higher off the earth, so there was more volume of height that you could be at. Come on, man, don't do that. Don't insult our intelligence. With the air was much different at that time. Steven, you grasping, bro. You grasping. You grasping. The temperatures are still gonna be cold as shit at Mount Everest heights. You're not leaving. And if see, and you don't do that. Fossils don't form that. Yes, they do. There are dead animals in the ground that over time, if left alone, will become fossilized. And to fossilize, you don't need to drown. Oh man. But dude, seashells and stuff, how does land form in the world? How does Hawaii form? Where did Hawaii come from? Why are there fossilized seashells on some of these mountaintops in Hawaii? Because they came from the bottom of the ocean. It's called volcanoes. They and form land, right? If you believe that all land came from the ocean, that's why you have fossils on top of mountains. They would deteriorate. Dude, I was just watching how they found these bones in a cave in in Peru, and them bones have been there for over 500 years. They ain't deteriorated. The meat deteriorates, but the bones don't. They become the fossils. Eventually, they become fossils if you leave them alone. If we would have left them alone, they would become fossils. But you believe in the waters above the waters. The two waters were together, and then the water separating the ferment came up out the ocean. So if the ferment came out the ocean, then you're gonna have land, and on that land, you're gonna have what? Seashells and stuff, sea animals. And then those sea animals die because now they're out of the water, and then they become fossils, right? That's your belief. So come on, man, you reaching, you grasping, and you just throwing stuff out there that don't even make sense. The air was different. The Bible apologist cracked me up. If you need to apologize on behalf of religious texting, that in itself is the call to be skeptical of the text and says that the devil is in the author. Exactly. I have megalodon teeth. I found that work on the construction site in Central Florida. All of the land was covered at some point and will be covered again. Yeah. Oh, Florida gonna get covered. Florida gonna get flooded, covered. I would I wouldn't stake my life in Florida. No, bro. You saying the mountains were there before the flood, but where did the mountains originate? Come on back. Go back. Go back further in Genesis. Where did your mountains originate in your Bible? And no, the dinosaurs, you're talking millions of years ago. So no. Hell, we wouldn't be able to live back then. For 300, like 65 million years ago, we wouldn't be able to live. I think it was too much nitrogen in the air at the time. No, is that no 3 billion years ago? The Earth had too much nitrogen in its atmosphere, so we wouldn't have been able to live either. Where was the land in Genesis 1? Where was the land, Stephen? Where was the land in Genesis 1? You talking about the mountains were there before the flood? Yeah, they were there before the flood, but where was it before then? According to your story, it was in the water. Then your God miraculously made the land come out of the water. If your God made the land come out of the water, then the land was under there with the fishes. And boom. Oh, but no, the fish were made after the land was made. So no, I know that's where you're gonna go with that afterwards. But if you look at how land is created on this planet, that's how it's created, bro. Volcanic eruptions. Oh, it created all of America? Yeah, America has volcanoes. Shit. Yosemite is a big ass volcano. The Appalachians could create a volcano. The tectonic plates keep meshing and pushing. If a lava flow figures a way to crack through there, it blow up. Just admit, look, science and religion. People say that science and religion have, there are some points that it can match up at, but most of it can't. Right, Mount St. Helen, volcano. If you ever look at one of those maps that shows the volcanoes around the planet, you'd be like, God damn, I didn't realize there was that many volcanoes. Um, who is this YouTuber? Wrestling. I look him up. I don't usually do a lot of debates. I stopped doing the debate. Okay, I stopped doing debates. Y'all know. Some people know who've been around for a while. After this dude started crying, I was like, nah, man, I don't. This there's no point to this. Hawaii is basically a collection of volcanoes. Yeah, Hawaii is a bunch of volcanoes. The whole planet. If you look at how the planet was made, the planet went through the bombardment stages, and there was no water. There was no water on the planet, and then you had within some of the comments and everything were hitting, there's water within those comments, and then that's how we started to get water. Then after that, the earth starts cooling, and that water starts creating oceans. And actually, let me correct myself. The water starts creating oceans, but there was that no point where the whole world. Some scientists are saying that the whole world was covered by water at one point. I disagree with that 100%. I don't think the whole world was ever covered by water at one point because there's not enough water. There's never been enough water on this planet to cover the entire planet. There's not enough water in the atmosphere. There's not enough water on the ground, and there's this. They trick you with this water under the ground. That's not water. That's not. There's no oceans under the ground, like below the crust level. Those are rocks that have absorbed water. So you won't go down there and find an ocean. It'd be rocks, but there's water inside some of those rocks, right? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That they're saying there's water inside the earth, more than on the surface. But that's a certain type of geological formation where the rock is absorbed the water. So you're not going to go under there and you break through the earth's crust and you splash down into an ocean. You're going to splash down onto some rocks. And within those rocks, there is a certain type of water. Right. And it's a whole bunch of wordplay. And you got these people, you got some of these scientists who are Christians and they want to make it fit. So they want to say that, yeah, there's oceans under the water. There's more water under the earth than there is in the oceans. And that's where the flood waters came up from the deeps, gave up its water. Sorry, no. All they're talking about is the young dry spirit. A whole bunch of ice melting in 6 days. So some hella solar radiation hit the ice age and melted that shit in 6 days. So they use wordplay. They don't want to be exact about what's going on because if they're exact, then it doesn't fit into their narrative, and they want these things to fit into their narrative. They have to fit into their narrative in order for them to continue to believe it. All right, I'll look him up and see what kind of person he is. Man, don't call me Unc. I ain't that old. All right, you hear me? Matata. Man, the first time one of them little could call me Unc, I'm like, what the hell? Nah, it's all right. It's cool. Do I believe there's water above the dome? First of all, I don't believe there's a dome. So, no. We have water in our atmosphere. That's why we get rain. That's how we get rain. Like yesterday, y'all was in Atlanta. Oh, boy, you saw the windows open, as they would say. But there's no dome. No. All right, Wade, touche, bro. All right, I just called Wade. He said I called him young when Chernobyl came up. Can I call you Fine, man. I don't care. It's all good. Nah, you good, Matata. Uh, it's just the first time that somebody said that to me about what was that shit, 2015, 2014, 15, somebody said that to me. I was like, what the hell? Look, things I've lived through is now taught in history classes, so I'm over it. But yeah, there's no dome. I don't believe there's a dome. I'm never gonna believe there's a dome until no. Because to believe that there's a dome, then I have to believe there's a flat earth. And I'm not accepting flat earth theory. That's not gonna work at all. And I've been the kid or the grown man with the telescopes and everything, and I've looked out there. The moon is not in our atmosphere. If the moon was in our atmosphere when the International Space Station is going around, or when Mir was going around, the moon would have been big as shit to them. But it wasn't. It was still incredibly far away. Hey man, that's what I'm trying to do. Share the wealth. And if the sun was in our atmosphere, we'd be scorched like a big dog. It requires our atmosphere to keep us from being scorched by the sun. So the sun cannot be in our atmosphere. So there's no dome. No dome. No. There's dark matter. There's space. Now, I think that we have a long way to go before we can truly explore space. And the sad part about our world is that our whole world, I don't care what government system you're talking about, is based on profitability. There is no profit in exploring space for the sake of exploration. You have to figure out a profit in order to do it. I do think there are multiple reasons why we haven't been back to the moon, but one of the reasons we haven't been back to the moon because there's no profit in the moon, right? There's no profit in it. So you don't think the Hubble telescope's really out there? No, I think the Hubble telescope's out there. It's looking out. That's how we are looking further and further into the universe and seeing things clearer. Like the clarity. If you was using your telescope and you're looking out and you're trying to look at one of the other galaxies or a nebula or something like that, it's fuzzy. So the Hubble was placed where up there, outside of the first parts of our atmosphere, so that it can see things clearly, right? And so that's why we got detailed imagery of these different nebulas and galaxies and all this kind of, all this stuff. Solar system. That's why it's clearer. It's still not seeing as far as we need to see. But some of the things it is seeing, like different levels of radiation, allows us to see further, kind of like looking back in time. Because based on that radiation, we can tell what the universe looked like billions and billions of years ago. And it becomes simple. The universe, the further we look towards the expansion of the universe, the simpler everything looks. The more undeveloped, I should say, the more undeveloped everything looks. But yeah, no, the Hubble's out there. Just sometimes the Hubble don't always look up. Sometimes it looks down. That's the part you should be worried about. Is when it looks down. But now we have enough satellites and other. It doesn't have to look down as much as it did when it first went up. But now, because now there are other satellites that have microscopes that look down and see you running down the street. I damn sure don't think we're in a dome. That would be like if we were in a dome, wouldn't it be smart for the world to come together to penetrate the dome? To say we're going, to come to an effort to say this is some bull. Why would we still be in a dome? I'm gonna be very hard pressed to go with that one, and I need proof of it. That's kind of like a person like my Bible guy on here. We're gonna believe in the dome, but we don't have proof of a dome. We got ancient people who said there's a dome, but no one's actually ever proved it. How do I think AI is going to fit into the Bible and religion? Well, AI is going to become some formation of the mark of the beast or the coming of the beast or the end in Revelation or something like that. The Bible thumpers are going to make that part of Revelations. Most new technologies, well, some of the higher levels of new technologies, they always try to make it into something with Revelations and end of times. It actually has absolutely nothing to do with it, right? The danger of AI is us killing ourselves. I I know not the what's the movie? What's Arnold Schwarzenegger's movie? Not the Exterminator. No, not Exterminator. Is it the Exterminator? Oh my gosh, I just forgot that whole series of movies. What the hell is his movies called? Terminator. Thank you. Not so much Terminator. Um, because Terminators aren't efficient. If you think about, like when I was an IT guy, everything was about being efficient, right? Terminators are grossly inefficient. A computer AI, if it wanted to kill all of us, it's not going to kill us through building a bunch of robots, right? It's not going to launch all the nuclear missiles and things of that nature because it would effectively be pretty much killing itself as well, right? Have you ever seen, if you've seen the movie Moonfall, Moonfall, the AI was more like a swarm that went around killing only what it needed to kill. And it's very difficult to kill. Micro, like nanotechnology would be, nano AI would be the most efficient way to kill all of us. Will be one of the most efficient ways of killing us is nano AI. But that nano AI, I would, if I'm the AI, I'm using that to deliver biological viruses to kill everybody. If you think about it, why go out and waste all that energy when I can just create plagues that kill the majority of humans and then create some more plagues that can kill the rest of them? You know, you leave the other animals alone, you don't care about them. But yeah, if I'm the AI, I'm developing viruses. I'm gonna use biology to kill the biologicals. We gotta build all these machines. And then we build our machine society. But as far as it playing in the Bible, it'll be something with, I can't think of anything in the Bible that will fit unless the AI is the beast. That's it. What about cyborg Neuralinks from Elon? That's dangerous. I think we're gonna be cyborgs. I don't. This one keep disappearing. I don't like the way we're going. We need to have neutral, natural, spiritual hive mind instead of robotic one. I'm on the fence, bro. I'm on the fence. I don't like playing with my brain. I'm not neural linking things is gonna be I got a problem with that. Cybernetics, I don't have a problem with though. You know, some of the like the exoskeletons that they're using in the military. Look, I'm 51. I plan on being real healthy, but I plan on living to be 150. Right? Let's say I get up there about 100, and all of a sudden, I already got back and knee problems and ankle problems and shoulder problems from my time in the Marine Corps. Look, exoskeleton right now be fine, but it's a lot. But when you can just put something on when it becomes something thin or I can put something on these arms and I can just lift stuff and I can walk and run faster. $6 million man. That might be too much of an old reference for y'all. $6 million man. Some cybernetics I don't mind. I think it'll be a great thing for the quality of life. But when you start, but I understand there. But when you start messing with the brain, Wade said he leased a new back and knee in a heartbeat. Yeah. Yeah, you start messing with the brain and neural linking me to computers and technology. See, that gives other people access, and that's I'm not doing that. Oh, you heard the sound effects when I said the $6 million man. What do you think about the Van Allen radiation belts? Um, I think because of the when the Soviets first sent up, I think what was it? It was what they sent up? They sent up a rat and I think a monkey, and it died because they didn't understand or know the Van Allen belt was there. So if you don't, the Van Allen radiation belt is a tremendous amount of radiation that goes kind of like the magnetic around the Earth, right? But it gets wider on the as you go closer to the equator and thins out at the poles, right? So it kind of does this. This is why when we fire, if you like, I've been over to Canaveral and watched them when they fire off, shuttles. Those shuttles. Now, first of all, most of the International Space Station, all those kinds of things are existing inside of the Van Allen belt before you get to the Van Allen belt. But even still, when they fire off these rockets, they angle northward, right, towards the North Pole, for that escape window out through the thinnest and possibly nothingness of the Van Allen belt at the small, it's small for big in space, small in, if you're looking at it from our perspective, if it's 10 miles wide, that's wow, that's 10 miles. But when you're shooting a rocket, that 10 miles is not that wide. So they angle it, and they always talk about they have a certain window that they can launch because based on solar radiation and that sort of thing, they have certain windows, and based on that Van Allen belt to get through the North Pole area, so that they can then get beyond the Van Allen belt, if you're going to the moon, so to speak, because you will have to go past the Van Allen belt to do that. The only place to do it is North and South Pole. Of course, out of Florida, out of Northern Hemisphere beings, we're going to do it out of the North Pole. But that's why if you look at the old footage in the '60s, they shot towards the North Pole. So there's a way of getting past the Van Allen belt. But when the Russians didn't know that, they shot that shit more straight out, more efficient, what they thought would be a more efficient route. And all they wind up doing is killing them animals. And that's how we found out about the Van Allen belt. Well, that's what made him start researching, like, okay, they died. It's got to be something there. So that's how you get it. Right. Like in the movies, they have to re-enter the atmosphere at a certain angle in those movies. And yeah, even in re-entry, you have a little window that you come into it, and this is mostly. And where do they always go? They always come in and land in the Pacific Ocean. You ain't never heard of them landing in the Atlantic Ocean. They ain't never landed in the Atlantic Ocean. It's always West Coast, right? It's always West Coast, or back in the day, the Pacific Ocean, because when you're coming back in from the North Pole, you're coming in at that angle that puts you in the Northern Hemisphere, but it's going to put you, because the Earth is going this way, you're coming in this way, it's going to put you in the Pacific, or landing on some airstrip on the West Coast. But yeah, Russia's been to see. In order for the moon thing to be fake, you would have to get Russia during the height of the Cold War to agree to fake shit too. You think America and Russia was in agreement with that? Hell no. And since then, you would have to get China, and I think India, and some other countries have supposedly been out there flying around. You have to get all of them to agree to keep on faking it, to spend money to fake it, to maintain this illusion for America. I think Russia is going to help America, especially during the Cold War. I remember hiding under my desk because we was doing drills. And I was thinking, how you being under my desk thinking, if a nuclear missile hit, what the hell hiding under this desk gonna do? Not a damn thing. Yeah, but we have a I really want the pre-Younger Dryas civilizations to show themselves, and if there are aliens, I want the aliens to show themselves, whoever the hell they are, because that would freak out. That I think you're gonna have your religious zealots who are gonna stick with that religion, but I think a lot more people are going to have to reevaluate this whole scenario, right? Because who created them, and what is their religion? Because they probably got a religion too. So what is their religion? Did Jesus come for them 200,000 years ago when they were uh, around running the earth? Do I think the aliens are Anunnaki? Yeah, all of them are. From heaven to earth they came. That's what Anunnaki means. From heaven to earth they came. But I think that the Anunnaki are pre-Younger Dryas civilizations, most of them from the Atlantean societies. And mind you, Atlantean is not one spot. There's the capital city that they talk about sinking, but the Atlantean Empire spanned the globe. So when the Ice Age started about 15,000 years ago, and now they're going to go through about 3,000 years of an Ice Age, those civilizations, no matter how great of technology they were dying out. And as they were dying out, at the end of it, with all the solar radiation and all that ice melting in 6 days, flooding the earth, 400 feet sea level rise. So not every part of the earth was flooded, but all the coastal areas flooded. A lot of islands disappeared. The Bahama Islands were a lot bigger and a lot more. Florida was bigger. There were a lot more islands and there was a lot more land. 400 feet of sea level, you get 10 feet of sea level right now, and Florida is underwater. Savannah, all that stuff underwater. So we're talking 400 feet of sea level rise. You're talking about tidal waves going all over the planet. So that civilization damn near died out. The survivors are the ones that we call the Atlanteans, who restarted civilizations all over the world. But that restart didn't happen for 1,000 years. I'm sure those people had, maybe they were in the hollow earth, and that's where they retreated to during the Ice Age. Uh, so some of them may have retreated to the Ice Age, while others said, no, we're going to stay here, and we're in this little zone around the equator that's habitable. But then that flood tore them a new one, and then they had to restart civilization. And if 100 years go by, and all of a sudden here's these beings coming down on a helicopter or a jet or some kind of propulsion, and when you look at these stories, what does it say in the Bible? God descended with fire and smoke and all this stuff. Sounds like a damn rocket, right? So you got these, and the Mesoamericans saying they came from the sky and landed, with fire and plume, and they had these little spacesuits on or all this stuff. So of course they're going to think they're God. We still got tribes now. Oh, perfect one. I talked about this before. During World War II, there was I think it was World War II or Vietnam. No, it was World War II. There was a South Pacific tribe that America wanted to relocate. They relocated them by putting them on a plane, flew them to another island, and then left. When they came back, these people now took sticks and wood and built a model plane, and the symbol for the Air Force they was wearing that, and they were worshiping the plane because they thought that they were gods. Right? You got that tribe off the coast of Africa who thinks that they thought the airplane was a god. Do you think that it was something that they could have done to cause the flood, nuclear disaster, maybe? No, actually, more recent rewinding the clock shows that around that 9,000, well, around 12,000 years ago, you had a tremendous amount of solar spots and radiation that would have melted the ice age, that melted the ice age in 6 days. there would still be a lot of nuclear radiation around if that was the situation. But they were living in the ice age. They weren't doing shit but trying to survive. So when that solar flare and the sunspots melted that ice in 6 days, it flooded the shit out. I mean, you can imagine all that ice just 6 days. If our north and south pole, not even North Pole and South Pole, let's just say the North Pole melted in 6 days. Whoo shit. There's a lot of people gonna die. New York is gone, you know, in Florida gone, the European Peninsula is probably gone, Italy gone, Britain, all that island, all them islands up there, they gone. You know, that shit, all that shit just flooded out. North Africa gonna flood, you know, all that and you know how much, and with the water, you guys have had the little you grew up, you had the water hose and then you put your thumb over it and it shoots out, right? If the polar caps just melted in 6 days, that rush of water will hit the Straits of Gibraltar and burst through into the Mediterranean like somebody holding a spigot. It will be a massive ass tidal wave, and it's gonna flood the shit out of Morocco, Gibraltar, all that, and then those islands like Malta and all that's in there, they're gonna flood through, and when it will rush all the way to the Levant and flood the shit out of the Levant, probably to Iraq and northern Egypt, all that stuff flooded. The Greek islands gone. A couple of hilltops might still be there. You see what I'm saying? So imagine that happening, but the ice is covering the majority of the world. You're gone. Or some kind of ship. Yeah, it's or some kind of ship. No, if you're talking about the Anunnaki, yeah, I think they were some. They was on some kind of boat, some kind of ship. Now, the the Kemetic story says that Osiris left on a boat and came over to the Americas and taught the Mesoamericans. And if you look at a ship coming from the horizon, it looks like it came out of the sky and then now it's on the water. Now you do know Christopher Columbus, for the asshole that he is, did claim that he saw a alien craft underwater zooming about and all this kind of stuff. And there are other voyagers who said something similar. You don't think the Florida man would evolve to withstand that? Florida man is pretty wild now. Who's the Florida man? You talking about people live in Florida? Y'all got too many geriatrics. Social Security gonna be good and tight because we're gonna get rid of a whole bunch of them old people in Florida. Oh, they're gonna stop sending me them letters telling me that I'm not gonna get Social Security. If they do come back, they need to earn trust. They were oppressors and giants. We need, yeah, they would. They would have to earn our respect. If they came back, our basic nature is that we're gonna think that they're enemy first. So they're gonna have to learn some respect. They would have to do some stuff like if, and it's funny, it came up on TV yesterday when I was scrolling. Um, the original V series. I don't know if y'all remember the original V series, but in the original V series, they had to come down and it was like, no, we come in peace. We got this medical. We can help fix y'all up, and we got this new blue energy, and we're gonna do all these things. We friendly. And then they was eating us. They're gonna have to come and bring the med beds, bring some new type of energy. Yeah, they're gonna have to come saying, hey, here you go, here you go. The Japanese have a story about a flying ship with a person on it. Oh yeah, you'll find those flying ships all over the world. The Hindu story, they talk about war in heaven between the gods, that they will fly in their fiery chariots, fighting one another, shooting. They call them They had lightning bolt guns, is what they call their lasers or whatever they were shooting with. But they had lightning bolt guns and things of that nature. And you can find that out of China as well. You got a lot of those stories. That's why I can't see how people get hung up on a biblical story when you have so many others. Well, for the most part, these a lot of these people don't read these other stories. They have no idea about these other stories, and when they do hear them, they just chalk them up. Ah, man, I don't need that one. They just keep moving. But it is 1:32, people, and I am very hungry, and I am not one of those people who will eat while they're on camera because I think that's rude as hell. Unless we was planning on having like a dinner time thing. Like when I start doing some classes, well, I no, even when I start doing classes, I'm not going to be all right, y'all. It's dinner time. Let's all get your plate together. We're not doing that. Uh, yeah, they will think that they are demonic uh, and not think of them. But the hell, they might think we're demonic. Look how easily we destroy each other. But I am working on producing some. We're gonna do some classes. I have to get this freedom of. I'm gonna create some freedom of time. We're gonna do some classes, some seminars. I'll keep the price point to be very low um, for those. We will continue with our normal studies. I appreciate everybody today, everybody who commented. Continue to comment even after this video is over. For people who are watching it, you know, put your comments in there. I do come back and read them. So keep commenting, keep liking, keep sharing, keep subscribing. Those who give the little, gifts on TikTok, I'm not gonna do that NPC thing. That's not gonna happen. You know, I think people yesterday was trying to goad me into doing that a little bit. But I appreciate all the gifts and I appreciate the stars and financial gifts that people give to the channel. But most importantly, I thank you guys for being here, for being peaceful. Even for those who we don't agree, I thank you for being peaceful. The peace is always, we can have a conversation when we're having a conversation. And we will be back. Tomorrow is Wednesday. I have absolutely no idea what we're going to talk about tomorrow. I will get off when you came in. That is not my fault, Ramsey. That's why you was on YouTube, so you can go back and look at it. And Ramsey, you knew I was doing a video yesterday. You know the time I'm doing. Let me hold on. I'm finna be Unc for real now, y'all. Ramses, I ain't gonna call out your real name. You know what time I do my videos. You know what time I do it. You even admitted in the text that you sent me that you knew I was doing a live video. And yet you called my phone to interrupt the live video. When you come up here, little fella, when you come up here, you catching one of these straight square in the chest. And I don't want to hear no whining after you catch it, because I'm already warning you and telling you. Because you, of all people, know. You know, because I told you, and you know it. And you've been following me for years. So when I see you, next time you come up here, because I know you're coming soon, you getting one of these, bro. Right square in the chest. I don't care. Tell me something. He was at work. He know what time I do the videos, y'all. He know what time. But he always thinking him. Let me tell you, it's him and Donald. They just now Donald don't do that. Donald at least wait till after I'm done. But you do that shit again, Ramsey. All right. But anyway, I appreciate y'all. Y'all know y'all can't take me serious all the time. So tomorrow, I have no idea what we're talking about tomorrow. I ain't gonna talk to that joker who was in here. We'll do another one on polygamy, polyamory, since he want to come in here and talk about that. So Wednesday is what we're doing. When Thursday we're going through the Gospel of Thomas. We're reading through the Gospel of Thomas and breaking some of it down. The Gospel of Thomas actually has some good stuff. I like a lot of stuff in that one. Esoteric things. And then Friday, I have no idea what we're talking about. One last question. What's your biggest pet peeve? It depends on what we're talking about. See, like, I was just told the other day by some of the ladies who come to this lounge, gonna tell me that I'm a handful. Now, in her words, I'm two handfuls. And I thought about that for a minute. I do have some pet peeves. Like, I don't like mouth noises. Like a person smacking and or all that. I once went on a date with a girl, and every time before she talked, she So I went down the street and I saw this person going up down the street and I bought me a new shirt. And dude, we didn't even get past the appetizer. I was like, check, check. She was like, what? I was like, nah. I said, and that smacking. And then she was smacking her food too. I was like, this is not going to work, you know. But mouth noises drive me crazy. Um, I am very direct. So people being indirect gets on my goddamn nerves. You know, being vague, just get to the point. You know, just tell me what it is. Uh, I don't like using finite words. So every if you say every or all or always, I'm gonna take you for the every all always, right? Uh, and so I can't stand that when you're vague or you use finite. The N word and the B word, I can't rock with you if you're using those words. You can use it around other people, just don't use it around me, right? No, just don't use. And dang, sure don't ever call me that. And the we say in here we say the W word, but most of these jokers in here be like W word. What's the W word? I don't know what the W word is because they actually spell it HOE and still think it means the same thing, but it's WHORE. Or they WHORE, right? So they don't realize that it starts with a W. And you know, being disrespectful to women like that, I can't stand it. Yeah, and being violent towards a woman. Now, does not, ladies, mean you can go and hit a man. You hit a man, you're gonna catch that return. And I ain't gonna say a word. Nobody should be laying hands on nobody unless in a situation of personal self defense. You know, I think that might be all of my pet peeves. Yeah, I think that might be all. I hope that's not two handfuls, as I was told. You know, two handfuls. Look, if you say something that's incorrect historically or something that I'm just gonna correct it, but I'm not correcting it to be an ass about it, to be a know-it-all. I'm correcting it because I don't want you going around saying something that's wrong and looking stupid. You know, I would want you to correct me, and I can take it. Yeah, I say something wrong, you correct me, like, oh, okay, I'm good. I don't get all in my pants all in. Oh, I do have another big pet peeve. If I'm watching two pet peeves, if I pay for something, I need to get all the value out of it. We was talking about this the other day. Jokers go to a football game and then they're gonna leave, and it's still 3 minutes, 4 minutes. I don't give a damn. We getting blown out. I pay for that ticket. I'm watching the whole game from start to finish. And then the same thing with food. I'm gonna eat all my food, and that's because I grew up without food a good portion of my life when I was a kid. But if I'm watching a movie, and I know some of y'all who come to the lounge come in here. If I'm watching a movie, why are you talking to me? Don't talk to me if I'm watching a movie. I am heavily engrossed in my movie or show or whatever it is. Why are you talking to me? There is only one person who can get away with talking to me while I'm watching a movie, and even that is to a certain extent. Because even Angelina, if she go too far, like watch the movie. Do I need to turn it off? But don't talk to me if I'm watching a movie. And I don't care. I done seen Avengers Endgame 16 times. If it come on right now, I'm gonna watch it. And I'm gonna watch it like it's the first time I ever seen it. Don't talk to me. So those are my pet peeves. I guess I am a hand. I guess I'm one and a half handfuls. Because if I told you all the other stuff of my requirements, then like it takes a lot to become my friend. It takes a lot to become my friend. So got me all in my personals. You're laughing at me. Yeah, but yeah. So that's it. That's about it, man. That's about it. All right, y'all got me all in my personals. Now I'm hungry as all get out, and you know, I need to eat something before these humans start walking in here because my old man crew. Damn it, I left my watch at home again. My old man crew probably in here in a few minutes. So y'all have a great day, and remember, you gotta free yourself to be yourself because your greatness is not negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations, and I will see you guys tomorrow. I will be on time tomorrow because I woke up at like 4 o'clock in the morning and I could not go back to sleep until about 6:30, 7 o'clock, and then that just threw my whole clock off. So don't be like that. We can rewind. No, man. No. I'm watching it. Leave me alone. Talk to y'all later. Jokers. I'm watching my movie. Then I'm gonna watch something. I'm gonna call Angelina. Then I'm gonna watch me something.